The lingering effects of the 2008 recession, evolving listener choices, and a program schedule that changes every few hours all contribute to KFAI's years-long slide in listeners and a parallel drought in revenue. That's the assessment of Executive Director Willie Dean. Dean and station staff have a pledge goal this month of $70,000, but even if they hit that number, it doesn't offset the looming shortfall. At the heart of the crisis are indications that KFAI has experienced a profound drop in listeners, as much as 70% in the past 9 years. Ratings for small nonprofit stations clustered around the left end of the dial are traditionally low and subject to unpredictable swings due to statistical challenges of measuring small audiences. But KFAI's non-commercial compatriots, University of Minnesota's student station Radio K, the jazz station KBEM at North High School, and the urban rap station KMOJ all have significantly higher numbers of listeners. Dean doesn't yet know what the solution is, but he acknowledges it's difficult to appeal to listeners and funders alike without a coherent programming message. Maintaining a minimum level of listeners is a requirement for receiving money from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. If KFAI doesn't pull the number up, the station risks losing another $100,000 from the CPB. Sally Kane concurs with Dean's assessment of KFAI's ills based on what she's seen elsewhere. Kane is the CEO of the National Federation of Community Broadcasters and the former director of a community radio station in rural Colorado. She's pessimistic that donations to nonprofits will rebound anytime soon. Kane says it's not a matter of toughing it out.
I think that this is the new normal, and I think that it calls people involved with community media to rise to much more sophisticated levels of decision-making that's based on data.
Stations that are successful, she says, are those that make a concerted effort to be relevant for listeners and accurately measure how what they offer is being received. But any attempt to realign KFAI's programming to snare more listeners will face challenges. All 88 locally produced on-air programs are hosted and produced by volunteers, and many of these on-air hosts have invested decades of diligent service and hold significant sway over the station's direction. An effort in 2010 to realign programming to fix the declining trend turned contentious. Ron Toombs is one such long-term volunteer. He has put in nearly 20 years of on-air and behind-the-scenes work at KFAI, and he thinks the station has some soul-searching to do before it collectively finds its path.
Change is not in the culture of KFAI. You know, we are extremely progressive politically organization, a station, but when it comes to making changes, we are as rock-hard conservative as they come.
With so many separate shows each week and programs presented in more than a dozen languages, KFAI provides airwave access like no other radio station in the Twin Cities. Many of the station's longtime advocates maintain that such access to the airwaves is a key component of the KFAI mission.
And there is no silver bullet because there's not one problem. There's a lot of little problems. And so we have to attack this from a lot of different angles.
For KFAI News, I'm Art Hughes.
We really got to get something off our chest.
Okay.
First of all, Turn Back Now recently found out that KFAI is doing their pledge drive in a couple weeks, October 17th. Really get involved. And here's why you should get involved. You should get involved with KFAI because even though there's a big radio station that calls themselves independent, they're not actually independent. And they don't actually play local music. They talk about real music living there, local music living there, but real local music kind of lives on KFAI. I actually have a list of my friends who have and have not played here, but have the potential to play here if they want to. My friends the Lone Crows, my friends Rape Door, Jelly Project. There was a punk band called the Progenitors that was amazing, that was never played anywhere, that absolutely should have been. The Evil Creatures, Me. Our friends Chalk, our friends Breed, Hey Fuzzy Machete, The Floating Perspectives, and Hot Damn. These are all bands that have maybe been on this radio station, but have for sure not been on any other local radio stations, and they absolutely deserve to be. This radio station will play them. Not only will this radio station play them, they'll blog about them, and they'll make videos about them, and they'll talk about them, and all of that costs money. All of that costs a lot of money.
And everyone volunteers here.
And nobody gets paid here. Everybody volunteers. So all of your money goes to putting out actual local bands who are playing every night of the week all over town at smaller venues, not necessarily the big mega venue that is linked up with the big mega newspaper and the big mega radio station. And they're the ones that are real, live, rock and roll, local, awesome music. Rock and roll and hip hop and all the genres. Support KFAI.
Previously on Live from Studio 5.
We are Tree Party.
And you are listening to Live from Studio 5 with Cher Dial, Doug the Thug, and Do Glass.
KFAI 90.3 Minneapolis and 106.7 St. Paul.
Radio without boundaries.
Since the break of dawn, they told him not to do it, but he went ahead and blew it. He figured